Now I find this very interesting, that seeking pleasure leads to suffering and pain, and seeking discomfort leads to fulfillment. Isn't it interesting? It's kind of like paradoxical. Because be honest right now, how do you feel after overeating, eating all that junk food, after drinking too much, after watching porn and masturbating, despite all the times you told yourself that you're going to stop? How do you really feel after indulging in that short-term pleasure? You feel awful. You feel this regret and shame. And you can probably relate. I can tell you from personal experience that every time I overindulge in pleasure, I overate or I fat, every single time I was like, yep, that short pleasure, it's still not worth it. Confirmed. And even though we know this, we still do it. And now imagine yourself not eating that junk food, having your favorite snack, a cheesecake or a chips, in front of you and resisting it. Feeling that urge that you really want to do this, but resisting that temptation, resisting the temptation of drinking, of masturbating. How do you feel after that? How do you feel when you abstain from these? You're proud of yourself. You're looking back at it and you're so glad that you didn't do it. It brings you joy and satisfaction. Now compare these two feelings, when you indulge versus when you resist. And isn't it interesting that when you seek short-term pleasure, it leads to long-term dissatisfaction and frustration. But when you resist short-term pleasure and not overindulge, it leads to long-term satisfaction. And once you really understand this and get this into your mind, it will be a lot easier to resist these temptations and these urges will lose their appeal. You'll realize that the real pleasure, satisfaction and joy comes from self-control, from not indulging, and from enjoying the simple things which we'll talk about later. And that overindulging, not resisting, falling for the temptations is actually the worst thing. It becomes the regret. That indulging is worse than resisting. And now, here are some tips that I have for willpower and for self-control and the things that has helped me so far. And one of the best advice I have is to take deep breaths. Start taking proper breaths throughout your day, and especially when you feel the urge to do something. Now, you might be saying, what are you talking about taking deep breaths? But you see, most of the time, when we indulge in some kind of pleasure that we know it's not good for us, most of the time, we're almost like unconscious. We almost do it like mindlessly, like we mindlessly overeat, we mindlessly masturbate, we mindlessly do these things. And most of the time, our breaths are shallow while we do this. But you see, when we start taking deep breaths, it kind of brings us in the present moment and makes us more aware, more mindful, and it's much easier to break out of that temptation and to resist it if you're taking deep breaths. Now you might think that this is kind of weird or something, but trust me, just try it out. Take a couple of deep breaths, and the point is to take deep breaths into your belly, into your lower stomach, like right below your belly button, and like take the deepest breaths that you can take, like this. Come on, let's take a deep breath together. Just let it out slowly, smoothly, and all the way out. Again. And whenever you have some kind of urge, temptation, take a couple of deep breaths and just see the difference. Now, the next advice that I have is on actually quitting these bad habits. And I think that there are two ways of going about it. You either just slowly decrease the number of times that you do it, or you just quit it. Cold turkey, just quit it. And what I recommend, that if you're actually addicted to it, like actually addicted to that thing, then just take it step by step and reduce it over time. For example, if you're addicted to porn or masturbation, then slowly reduce it over time. For example, maybe you did it 30 times, 40 times this month. Then have it as a goal for yourself that in the next month you're going to do it 25 times. And then in the next month 20 times. In the next month 15 times. And then in like 4 or 5 months you'll reduce it to like 3 times a month. And I really advise doing this if you're like really addicted to it, or maybe you're addicted to drinking coffee. Maybe it's too hard to just quit it like just like that if you're too addicted to it. But reduce it over time. And I really advise to look at it in the big picture, not over the week, but over the month. Just take a step back and, okay, how many times have I did it this month, in the next month? And try to reduce it over time. And that's like a great strategy to go about it. And if you're not that addicted to it, then you can probably just quit. Today, just quit and not do it anymore. Of course, you will have some relapses, but you can just quit. But if you have been doing it for years, over and over and over again, and it's gotten into your daily habit, then it might be better to approach it with this like step by step, reducing it over time. Now, another advice that I have is changing your environment, because your environment has such an insane influence on you. It's crazy actually. So think about, maybe you have problems with eating too much junk food. Well, maybe one thing that you could do is not buy the junk food, not have it around you. Or another thing, just think about in what kind of situations do you indulge in those bad habits. Maybe it's when you're with a friend and he like encourages you to do this bad habits, or maybe he like offers you a chocolate bar or something like that. Maybe it could be even going so far as cutting that friend off. Or maybe you smoke around your friends, or drink with your friends when they are also drinking. Just imagine, in what situations do you do those bad habits? And what leads up to those situations? What's the lead up? What's the trigger to that situation? Maybe you masturbate when you see some kind of post on Instagram, or when you just get the urge, or when you wake up and you immediately grab your phone and start scrolling. But then just don't have your phone in your room when you wake up. Change the environment. Think about the actions that lead up to those bad habits. Maybe most of the time you masturbate when you're in your room and you're just scrolling, you have nothing to do, or when you're in the bathroom. Don't bring your phone there, that's it. Change the environment. Look out for the cues, for the triggers that gets you into those bad habits. Now, another great thing that you could do, as we talked about it, is to remind yourself of how will you feel after indulging in that bad habit. How will you feel after drinking too much, after eating that extra cheesecake, after masturbating? How will you feel after that? And compare it to the feeling of you resisting it, to the feeling of you not doing it. Compare those two emotions, and that can also help a lot. Another thing is remembering the dream outcome. Remembering you having that fit body. Just have that in your mind. Or you not doing that bad habit, quitting smoking for years. Remember that dream outcome that you have, not having like lung cancer when you're 60, 70 years old. Keep that dream outcome in your mind. Another thing that can help actually is that when you have this urge, this temptation, think of a happy memory. This might sound weird, but this is from an experiment that they've done on kids, where they put marshmallows in front of them and they had to resist eating them for 10 minutes, and if they would get another marshmallow. And they found out that if they told the kids to think about some happy memory, maybe their mom swinging them on the swing or something like that, then they were able to resist eating the marshmallow like 10 times more. So thinking of a happy memory can help a lot. And they also found in the study that not seeing the marshmallow also helped the kids. So not having inside that bad habit can also help you. And they also found in that study that if they told the kids to think about some bad memory, some sad memory, they were much more likely to eat that marshmallow. So this is also a great thing to keep in mind, that when you're sad, when you're in a bad mood, you're much more likely to do those bad habits. Another great thing that you could do is to visualize you resisting the temptations, the urges. Because, okay, maybe you got rid of all the junk food in your house. But what will happen the next time someone offers you a chocolate bar or a chips or something? You might not be able to resist it. But by visualizing it, by visualizing you being there and someone offering you that cigarette, that chocolate bar or whatever, and you visualizing in your mind as much detail as you can, resisting it, and then replaying that image over and over and over again, that will make it a lot easier to resist it. So visualization can also be a great tool. Now another thing is that with habits like drinking, smoking, eating, or things like that, you can do something called willpower training, where you basically take your favorite snack, for example, or a cigarette, you put it in front of you, and you just stare at it. And you just feel the emotions that come up, and feel how much you're drawn towards it, and how much it has grabbed you, and why are you so hooked by it. And you just stare at it and feel that feeling, and ask yourself, why does this small little thing have this much control over me? And this can actually help a lot, especially when someone offers you with this cigarette, offers you with that chocolate bar. So this is also another great thing. Putting that your favorite snack in front of you and just staring at it. And another thing that I recommend and that has helped me is to find pleasure in small things. Things like the sun shining, the scent of a flower, the very fact that you're alive, that you can take a deep breath, that you can walk, that you can see, that you can hear, and just be grateful for these things and remind yourself of the miracle of life. Just taking a walk, finding a stick along the way, and then bumping it into rocks from time to time for absolutely no reason, just being with others, playing with other people, helping other people. Find joy in these things, find joy in the small things, and be grateful for everything that you have. Really, gratitude is such an amazing thing, such a powerful tool. Being grateful for whatever you have, it's the antidote to frustration and suffering. And also, just being here right now, being in the present moment, and not wanting to be in another situation, not wanting another moment, and realizing that you can't have another moment, that you can't have a better another moment. The only moment that you have right now is the one that you're living right now, and you can't get out of it. And stop trying to get out of it. And the only thing that you could really do is to live every single moment entirely, not wanting to get away from it, but live it fully, including happiness and pain, because you just can't get away from it. And you also got to realize that you can't have one without the other. You can't have pleasure without pain. They are inseparable. But you see, a lot of people are trying to get rid of pain, trying to get rid of suffering, we live in very warm and comfortable houses, we sit around, we lay around, and then when we go outside, we get into a car that has heated seats, and then we go to work, and then we eat as much food as we want, drink a bunch of sugary drinks, consume a bunch of content, always getting that dopamine hit, smoking, drinking, or even doing drugs. But you see, you get used to all this pleasure, and you'll start needing something more potent, something more, something better. Just in the same way as a smoker goes from 1 pack a week to 1 pack a day, because he got used to that, and he needs something more potent, something better. And we start exploiting our pleasure systems, needing more and more and more and more. And you see, when you have explored all the limitations of pleasure, the only thing that you will be able to get a kick out of is pain. Look at the Romans, what they have. They had all sorts of pleasures imaginable. They had open bathhouses, everyone could go there, and they had all these orgies and food and everything. And the only thing that they would get a kick out of is seeing other people in the Colosseum get eaten by lions. That's how far they went. The more you go into pleasure, and the more you seek it, you will end up finding pain. By trying to get rid of pain and suffering and only keeping the pleasure, you end up with the very thing that you try to destroy. But you gotta realize that you can't have one without the other. You can't have pain without pleasure or pleasure without pain. And you see, having everything under control, everything known, all just pleasure, is a false ambition that we have. Because you see, if you had everything under control, everything known, predicted, you would get bored. Just in the same way when chess players play a game and they know that in 5 moves the other player is going to win. They got nothing to do about it. There's a checkmate in 5 moves. They stop playing because there's no point to it. They shake hands and that's it. Or when you know that a card game is going to end and you already know who's going to win, you shuffle the deck and play another game. Just in the same way, if everything is known and predicted, it's not worth it. It's boring. Okay, maybe if you had everything under control, the first couple of months you would go around fulfilling all of your dreams and pleasures, everything. But you would start getting bored of it. And after some time, what you would really want is a surprise. Something to happen that you don't know what it is going to be. And I once heard Alan Watts say this about having everything under control, that it's like making love to a plastic woman. That there's no surprise in it, there's no sudden answer in it. And it is boring. And what we really want is a surprise. And when you ask, okay, but what kind of surprise? Well, you can't really say, well, a pleasant surprise, because you can't have pleasant surprise without an unpleasant surprise. You can't have one without the other. You need both. So thank you for watching this video. If you're interested, I'm doing free one-on-one calls. You can, if you have any questions, if you want to talk about something, you can send me an email and we'll arrange a call and we'll talk about it. You can ask me anything that you want. Email in the description. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. All the love towards you. Thank you for your presence. Have a great day and goodbye.